In this video, we're going to do both some review of the basics of prepositions from Greek 1, and then we're going to move into a little bit of advanced grammar of prepositions. So let's start with those grammatical basics. Most basically, a preposition in any language is a word that connects two or more words or phrases together, telling us how they relate to one another. And there's two main categories of prepositions in Greek. The first is proper prepositions, and they are called proper prepositions because they live up to their name, preposition. So preposition itself has a proper preposition in it with preposition or prepose. A proper preposition is a word that can be added to the beginning of a verb to change the meaning of that verb. So balo, when ek is added to it, becomes I throw out. Gnosko, when ana is added to it, means I read. Notice here it does not mean I know up. So while sometimes the sort of etymological parts will equal to what the verb actually means, that is not necessarily always the case. One other note when it comes to the form of proper prepositions is that when a verb has a proper preposition, and it is augmented, so it's augmented usually for the past tense, that augment is going to come between the preposition and the root of the verb. And so let's do a quick pop quiz here. This is a little bit hard of one because we're reaching quite a ways back. What is our difference here between ex ebalon and ex ebalon? Yes, so the difference is one lambda here, two lambdas here. And what does that mean as to the tense? Good, so this one is the imperfect tense because it is built on the present tense root balo. This one over here is second aorist because the root has changed from two lambdas to a single lambda. And then the other main category of prepositions are improper prepositions, and they are called improper prepositions because they cannot be preposed to the beginning of a verb. That is, they cannot be stuck at the beginning of a verb to make that verb mean something different. So there are a number of these in Greek, but one example is ingus, which means near. You can't stick ingus to balo to make ingus balo to mean I throw near. It's simply something you can't do, which puts it in the category of improper prepositions. Prepositions can also stand independently. So whereas proper prepositions may or may not be affixed to a verb, improper prepositions will always stand independently. That is, they will never be attached to the beginning of a verb. Here we have Jesus threw out the demon ek tes ecclesias, from the church. The preposition here standing on its own. When a preposition stands on its own, you'll often see its final vowel, if it has one, will drop, and then the last consonant will change. So as you well know from all of your memorization of prepositions in Greek 1, that prepositions take objects. They take different cases after them, and their meaning may change based on the case of the word that comes after it. So in takes the dative to mean in the church. It's sort of one of the most simple ones. But with para, we have three different cases. Para can take the genitive, it can take the dative, or it can take the accusative as its object. And these are all going to mean different things. Para with the genitive is from, para with the dative is with, and para with the accusative is beside. So moving on to our advanced grammar, we have a couple different concepts that are helpful to keep in mind sort of as descriptive language for what you find in the Greek text. So a prepositional phrase is the preposition with everything that goes with it, namely with the noun or the phrase in the specific case that goes with that preposition. And it's always important to sort of consider a preposition with everything that goes with it. So you'll notice when I mark a Greek sentence, I'll mark the whole prepositional phrase in sort of the curly brackets so that I know that that is one whole unit that goes together. And then there's going to be, we're going to talk about three categories of the sort of grammar of prepositions, or three different ways you might say that prepositions are used when they are improper prepositions, when they are standing on their own. So whether or not they're a proper or an improper preposition, when they are standing on their own. So adverbial prepositions and prepositional phrases are going to be those words and phrases that modify a verb, answering the question when, where, why, or how. So in this case, the whole prepositional phrase is going with a verb and modifying a verb in a sentence, whereas an adjectival preposition or an adjectival prepositional phrase goes with a noun, modifies that noun, and answers the question which or what kind of. And then lastly, our last category here, prepositions and prepositional phrases can also be made into nouns themselves. So we saw this phenomenon, especially with with participles. In Greek 1, we have substantival participles, where the participle is neither adverbial nor adjectival, but functions as the noun itself. This can also happen with prepositional phrases, that Greek can just stick a definite article in front of a prepositional phrase to make it into a substantive, or essentially a noun itself. And so to get at these different categories, rather than just show you examples of them, I'm going to ask you to make some guesses about them. So we're going to end our lecture here with a lecture pause. So I'm going to ask you to pause the lecture and do a couple of different things here. First, identify the prepositional phrases in each one of these bullet points. So what are the prepositional phrases? See if you can give a preliminary translation of each one of these short sentences. And then the last thing is identify, sort of match which one is an adverbial prepositional phrase, which one is adjectival, and which one is substantival. So go ahead and pause, go do those things, and when you unpause, I will be here to offer you some answers. So I made it nice and simple here. Our adverbial prepositional phrases. The first one, our adjectival, is the second one, and our substantival prepositional phrase is the third one. So in each case, dia right here, dia ton graphone is our prepositional phrase. So for our identification, peri tes basileos is our prepositional phrase here, and then in to cosmo is our prepositional phrase down here. So let's go ahead and give a brief translation of each one of those, noting their adverbial, adjectival, and substantival functions. So we have, we know, this is our verb, gnoskamen, we know through the writings the law of God. So this is going to be an adverbial prepositional phrase. Notice how I have bracketed out the whole prepositional phrase, diaton graphon, through the writings we know. So it answers the question how. We know the law of God through the writings. Next one, anagnoske is our verb. He, she, or it reads, and the subject is mathetes. The disciple reads, and what they read, the object, is a parable. Peri tes basileos. So our prepositional phrase here is an adjectival prepositional phrase, giving us more information, answering the question, what kind of? What kind of parable? A parable about the kingdom. And then our last one here, me agapate, so do not love. So notice, by way of reminder, actually let's do it this way. Why do we have me here instead of oo? So oo and me both mean no, they both negate. Why is me here rather than oo? That's right, because oo negates indicatives, whereas me negates non-indicative verbs. So here we have an imperative, a command, don't love. The thing you're not supposed to love is the world. And the other thing you're not supposed to love, Mayday, excuse me, ta into cosmo, the things in the world. So this is a case where the prepositional phrase has been made into a substantive. It's been made essentially into a noun phrase by just sticking the definite article ta right in front of it. Do not love the world nor the things in the world. So this whole phrase, ta into cosmo, we would call the object, the second object of the imperative verb agapate.